Hello and welcome back to English Language Teachers React. I am Neil Teacher and I'm again joined by the rowdy and the ravishing Rich.
Hello, boys and girls.
I feel like you're doing the trailer.
Is that the correct intro?
You
How's it
sound
going,
like one of those
everyone?
trailer guys, you know?
Oh, yeah.
In a galaxy.
In a world with Rich and Neil.
Okay.
I
Hello,
like that.
everybody. It's Professor Rich, and we're here to dissect and inspect.
What are
That'd
we
be my intro.
dissecting and inspecting today? Because this is some clips that you've acquired.
That's right.
through secretive means.
Mm-hmm. So we decided, today we're going to see an example of how to teach. Really, this is the real deal. If you want to be top notch in the teaching game,
The pinnacle.
here's how you do it. My entire style is based on this person.
Okay.
So this is a character played by David Duchovny from X-Files called Hank Moody.
The fox.
And that's right. And in these particular clips, he's teaching,
Okay.
and we'll see some examples of outrageously high professionalism. I don't know if professionalism can be outrageously high, but
So I remember in Californication, he's a writer. So he's teaching English? He's teaching writing.
yeah, he's teaching fictional writing. So I guess it would be kind of like English lit.
Okay.
And he's coming in, as a pro, and everyone in his class, wants to be a writer or whatever, right? Yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to get my notepad.
And I didn't really want to. Yeah, exactly. I didn't really want to pre-watch these either, so I don't know how particularly interesting they'll be. I remember them being pretty interesting, but I guess we'll sort of see what we see. There's definitely going to be some interesting language, by which I mean swear words. Interesting language.
Oh.
So anyone who
censorship alert or spoiler alert, if you are, what would you say, averse to strong language?
strong language,
Yeah, then
strong
spicy language.
If you're averse to strong language,
maybe just cover your ears and just watch the silky movements of the teaching, and then ignore the.
and then listen to our dissection,
Yeah.
which may also contain strong language.
There's a whole lot of spice in this episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, are we blasting away then?
Let's flip over to that clip.
The shy, talented vampire looked up to his centuries-old mentor. Even in the twilight of his eternal youth, the old man was wicked smart and roguishly handsome, a glint of the devil flickering in his beautiful undead eyes. The young vampire knew there was much to be learned from his blood-sucking mentor. How to live, how to feed, how to fuck. But the boy was hungry, ravenous actually. Soon he would have to feed, and feed he would. The moronic frat boys that mocked him on a daily basis were good for something at least.
It's like
So,
Twilight stuff.
As I said, we could talk about his story, but the paramount professionalism there from Hank Moody.
Mm-hmm.
You ever had to use your phone in class like that?
Oh, he's using his. Sorry, I didn't catch.
Oh,
it. He
you
was
didn't
using
see
his
it?
phone. I thought he was just bored. I thought he had his
he's
feet
tapping
up.
away on his smartphone, sending a message very obviously.
Yeah, I mean, like all the other students are engaged. He's not. Just from a teaching perspective, I don't think you should be using your phone in class while students, especially students, you're supposed to be listening to them, critiquing them.
Yeah.
Completely disengaged. That would be something where you see a student do stuff like that, and you're kind of, going to throw out a question or something to try and bring them back and just let them know that you see what they're doing.
It's definitely a no-no, isn't it? That said, being completely honest, I have sent messages in class before. Maybe this is not the best moment to do it when one of your students is giving a presentation. Maybe there would be a more appropriate moment to do it, like if you have a couple of seconds between monitoring activities or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes you do need to send an emergency message, though, don't you? Or this is what I'm going for lunch.
One of the great aspects of having a smartphone, is when you get asked a question by a student, and it's like an intricate grammar question, and you're like, I can't quite remember. You don't want to give them the wrong answer. You do the whole, that's a great question. We'll get back to that, and you move them through into an exercise. When they start doing that exercise, then smartphone out, look it up.
That's right.
Oh, by the way, write it on a post-it note, slip it to them. Or that's a teaching point for you to transition to the next exercise. Something like it's being appropriate and smart in your, unlike this guy. When you use it and how you do it, right?
Yeah.
Don't
that's
text
right.
while driving. Don't text while teaching.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Pull over.
Yeah. Appropriate, smart, and respectful. Yeah. But as we'll see, this is kind of part of Hank's shtick, isn't it? So, yeah. Are we ready?
Am I ever?
Okay.
I'm just texting with my daughter. It's the only time she actually acknowledges my existence. Okay, so what about Balt's story? I heard something about vampires and frat boys and cum, so I'm half chubbed. How about the rest of you spoiled rich kids? Someone? Anyone? Bueller? What say ye, Jackie?
He's my roommate. He'll get mad at me.
Maybe, but ultimately he'll thank you for having the balls to say something of substance.
Okay. Well, I've told him 1,000 times he needs to drop the vampire bullshit. It's stupid. You're not a fucking creature of the night, Balt.
Says you, slut.
See, what'd I tell you?
Anything else?
Well, there was an awful lot of talk about fucking, but no actual sex. That kind of bummed me out.
Well, it is possible that longing for something is better than actually having it. I've heard it said that satisfaction is the death of desire.
Interesting. Do you need a tampon? I think I have an extra in my purse.
Ow, whoa. Look at the time already. Wow.
Actually, there's 15 minutes left.
Which is why I will leave you with this.
Can we pause it there for a second?
Yeah.
So, with this stuff, I know he's going Bueller. He's doing his own pop culture references, and I know it's not really much, but we've talked about it before. Having an understanding of like the culture where you're in, you can kind of make that sort of thing that piques their interest. That at least connect language points to pop culture references and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Because that's a big American film, isn't it? That Bueller thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you've got to, if you're doing Bueller, and in an ELT class, they're going to be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But,
yeah, I think if you did it in a British classroom, they might as well. I've never seen the film.
No. Yeah.
But I know about it. It's called like Bueller's Day Off or something, right?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's Howard Hughes. I think it's Howard Hughes. It's kind of one of those kind of like 16 Candle kind of things that were popular in the 80s or 90s. But you can, if you know a little bit about what's popular with your students, you could throw out an equivalent of Bueller, and it adds a little something that you kind of understand their background and all that sort of jazz. I just like bringing that up again because I think it's quite important to personalize to the class. Yeah. And also, he also has this banter with his students. And I think the dynamic is interesting. I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because there's this idea of a teacher and students being, you know, kind of like the authority figure and the lesser students, you know, where it's always respectful. But there are different dynamics that you can have in a classroom. You can have almost a peer relationship. But it does come with a certain understanding that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you draw the line at certain points. But, you know, I've taught, you know, nuclear physicists and engineers and doctors. You know, who am I to be, you know, saying, oh, well, I'm the teacher now, you should, you know, you can't just, you know, say, I mean, you can say anything to me, you know, because, you know, a lot of the language points that I'm teaching, especially when you're going into like IELTS and stuff, you know, you might get some stuff wrong because, you know, you're just teaching the words, but the concepts can be difficult.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think that is a strong positive about Hank Moody in general. And they don't have a teacher-to-student relationship, have a person-to-person relationship. I mean, he's definitely doing that, but he is also directing the class. So, you know, he's doing, Jackie, what do you think? He nominated a student. That's actually something that we didn't see from a lot of the other films, because they were just like anyone kind of thing.
Yeah.
So student nomination. So that was a good one. And you know, it's kind of funny how I was joking about it, saying like, oh, you know, I take all my inspiration from Hank Moody as a teacher. But you know, honestly, I do have a bit of this going on.
Can you clarify?
Yeah. Okay. I've definitely put my feet on the desk, especially with teenage students. I'll do it.
Why?
I think because I think it kind of makes them feel relaxed. It brings me down, right? It's like I'm not the one saying, right, everyone's got to sit up straight. I think it makes things kind of casual sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's a difficult example.
Point. It's an interesting point, and I think it kind of boils down to what reminded me in China, especially with the younger kids. You know, there's so much emphasis on good behavior, which is very important. You need control over your class, especially when you've got those huge class sizes. So there's a huge divide, and it makes sense because they're little kids. But, you know, as you get older and you've got these teenage students, one of the things is you do want a more casual and more informal atmosphere, because when they're going to be using English, they're going to be most likely using it in a casual and informal manner. You know, when they're communicating with people, you're not going to be speaking formally. I know you've talked about this. Hello, how are you? You know, if a kid, say they've come to Canada or UK and they, you know, they break that out in class, they're going to be destroyed. So they kind of need to have that aspect of informality to be able to, you know, engage and talk in that way. But it's a weird thing with English. We have this casual and formal and
you know, being perfectly honest, I think it is a risk as a teacher to bring it down, you know, to a really casual level, because then you might get people start to say, well, how do students know where to draw the line? Right, because maybe they'll start going off the rails. So I think it actually takes more skill to be able to, you know, deal with that, than to just be 100% strict all the time, right? Because in that situation, you have to be able to flip, right? If you're being Mr. you know, cool teacher, who's, you know, jiving with the kids and messing around a bit, and then suddenly one kid starts throwing a stapler at someone else's head or something, then you have to be able to switch it and act appropriately quickly, right? You know, you can't keep carrying on in monkey mode, you know. But I think there are some positives for it, and I think
we can actually go back to another example that we looked at previously in episode 2 with Stand and Deliver. You know, the way he controls the class, he does it with a lot with humor, and it's
right.
so there's this idea that you go in, you're a teacher, you're automatically an authority figure, and it is true. But a lot of new teachers lean too much into that it's like it's a given, and it's just this is handed to you and it's not earned. But then you have Hank Moody and the professor in Stand and Deliver, where it's actually more realistic because it's a hierarchical authority figure, and it's based on this person being able to control them through words, through humor. Well, not necessarily put downs, but you know, social dynamics.
Social dynamics, yeah.
You're not just the de facto leader because you're the teacher. You're the de facto leader because you are the leader in the class through the manner that you interact with your students.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a bit of a taboo cliche. You know, it's the kind of thing that definitely a Celta tutor and probably Delta tutors as well would steer people away from. They'd be like, "Oh, don't rely on that kind of thing," and they'd probably talk a bit more about having rapport with the students instead, right? But I don't know. I think there's room for a little bit of flair. Obviously, Hank Moody takes it to a ridiculous level that you definitely wouldn't want to go with. But yeah, there's something to the kind of rugged, chilled out teacher, I think, and I think especially teenagers can relate to it a bit, because you're not the guy who's going to just bollock them for random stuff. You're like a bit different. And it can work well, I think, but I think you do need to be aware that you need to be ready to shut things down if something's starting to get too if it's starting something, it's don't fly too close to the sun, isn't it? Yeah. Basically. So changing the subject, has a student ever asked you if you want a tampon?
No, I don't think so. I think the word is very similar in Europe, though. So, I think I'd get the gist if they did it in their own language. But, I'd like to think if I was ever in the position that I needed one and I asked, they would readily give it.
Have you ever had a student take the piss out of you like that when in an open question? They've like fired back, something like that?
No. But I can give you an embarrassing situation that in retrospect was just absolutely hilarious. I don't know if I've told this story before. I'll tell it you now anyway. So I'm in this mixed class, mixed as in like mixed nationalities, and there was a very nice Japanese girl, very, very sweet, kind of soft-spoken. Her English wasn't that, it was probably one of the worst in the class, but she tried hard, but, maybe she'd just been moved up levels too fast, so she was having difficulty, but she hung around. She was sat next to this other Chinese guy that was very outgoing, had a bit of a Hank Moody about him in that he had like I'm not going to say a dank sense of humor, but a naughty sense of humor. And so she puts up her hand and calls me over after we set an exercise, and she says to me, "Teacher," and I'm like, "Yep, how can I help?" And she's like, "The mushroom is in the window." The mushroom is in the window. She's like, "Yeah, the mushroom is in the window." And I see the Chinese guy next to her just laughing his ass off, and I'm like, "What's going to be mushrooms in?" And then she points, and I look, and my fly's down. No, and that you can't see anything. I've got underwear on and stuff like that. But that's what the Chinese guy taught her to say as like like idiomatically, and that's probably the closest I ever got to. But I cracked up. It was hilarious. That's probably I use that to today.
That's happened to me as well. That fly situation. I think that's a bit of a man thing, isn't it? Just sometimes I think
From that day
it
on,
has to happen.
I just wore
has to
track
happen.
pants.
It has to happen at least one time in your life. Well, with me, I'm pretty sure it was an adult class, and I'm pretty sure I taught the whole class, and then realized no one said anything because obviously maybe they were a bit embarrassed or too polite. But I remember in the class I was doing stuff where like I'm standing in front of the board and going like, everybody, hello, this kind of stuff, right? Oh dear me.
It happens to every teacher. I mean, I ripped my pants at one time.
Oh, I did that as well.
Yeah, I know, it's fun, isn't it?
That I'll tell you, this is an interesting one because I had 5 classes. I ripped my pants in the first class, like all the way down the back, and then I just sat down on a seat next to the board, and I taught all the rest of the classes for the day from that position. I was lucky that it was also a classroom with a PC, so I was doing lots of stuff on the computer, and then I'd write a bit on the board, and somehow I got away with it. But I think some of the students did think there's something weird going on today, but I don't really know what it is. But none of them really
Richard's
noticed.
Just got a permanent smile on his face. But I've seen it with I've talked about it with other teachers, where they've spilt coffee on themselves. I actually saw one class where the teacher, because like in China it's really hot, so you wear kind of like linen, the Man from Del Monte kind of clothes, like cream pants and stuff like this that are very thin. And as a guy, sometimes when you go to the washroom and you siphon the python, when you do that and then you tuck back in, sometimes there's leakage. And unfortunately for this guy, he was teaching a class and there was leakage, and he didn't notice, and it was quite embarrassing for him.
Yeah. Always wear black trousers, guys.
Yeah, guys and girls.
Definitely don't wear your chinos for teaching.
Yeah.
Or get absorbent underwear. Or use some other technique. Yeah. All right. Very good. Very good.
Is this the end of the clip then? Or?
Well, we got a little bit more. I don't know if anything's going to happen. We can take a little look.
Let's have a look, Ski.
As they can is full of shit. The only thing I can do is write about the shit that excites me, the shit that gets me hard. So, Balt, if you want to write about vampires drinking each other's blood and cum and whatnot, by all means, go for it. Write the shit out of it. Don't be niggardly with your emotions. Just run up the flagpole and see who salutes, okay? Now get the fuck out of here. Go read a book or something, preferably one of mine.
So, there was something that we missed.
Write what makes you hard.
Write what makes you hard, kids.
Write what makes you hard. I think it's a good takeaway. And I'd like to rephrase that to study what you're interested in, or at least, use English in the way that you find interesting. We talked about it before.
Oh, engagement. Read the books that you like. If you don't like reading in your own language, you're not going to like reading in English. Watch the YouTube videos you like.
Yeah.
If you don't like YouTube, then you're not going to like it in English either.
Use video
TV
games.
series. Yeah, video games. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Got to do what you like.
If you don't like movies, you don't like video games, you don't like reading books, have conversations with people. Find, make some friends, make some pals. I don't know.
If you don't like that, then what are you learning English for?
I mean, you can do it. I know, there are people that they don't want to learn English, but they've got to for their job. Maybe they're being sent abroad to a new branch or something like that, or it's a technical thing. Because everything with science, so you've got to write into, but then you have to find out an avenue of, well, what can make it interesting for you? Like, what is it about, in the thing that you're doing, that you're going to have to kind of do in English? What is it about that you can find in English?
Yeah, I mean, I almost think it's more important for those people, You know, the people who are doing it, you know, just because it's for work and I don't really like English, but I have to improve it. It's even more important, I think, to find the passion.
Yeah.
Get the passion. Where's the passion?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you know, because you get a lot of people who are kind of like Anglophiles, right? Like people who are like, you know, they just love British culture and all this stuff. They tend to learn these languages so well because they get into all this cultural stuff and they love the lessons about culture and stuff, right? But if you're not into British culture and you don't like British culture, then forget all those cultural lessons, do some other lessons, you know. You want some lessons on technology maybe, or something, you know, lessons on something else, world politics or whatever you're into. Yeah, definitely. I think it's all about that.
Yeah,
all
I
about
think
finding
that would
passion.
definitely be the number one tip.
So
but if
study
anyone-
what gets you hard.
Study.
That's
Hank
Hank
that's
Moody
definitely got to go on a t-shirt at some point.
paraphrase. Oh yeah, is that going to be our first merch? ELT under the covers.
Yeah, study what makes you hard.
It starts
Hey,
even
just
worse with the
writes itself.
podcast name.
Yeah, I know.
Oh no.
Okay. So clip number 2.
Yep. So this one's super short, and I'm not sure if it's really relevant to teaching whatsoever. But this takes place in his office.
Sorry, am I interrupting something, Professor Moody?
No, just a complete psychological breakdown.
I'm just picking up my essay. Jill said she graded them.
Rock on.
He said got a student? Oh, that's a student.
And you should hit up Dave Edelstein. Kind of a dude.
That's his mate, who he's cuddling with.
Oh, I thought he was a student.
His coke is the fucking truth. What? It's a great study aid. Plus, it suppresses my gag reflex. Good for, you know.
Noted. And dismissed. Shotgun?
Didn't quite expect it to be that spicy. So we got that's. I mean, I'm not sure that can that go on YouTube. That's like rated R. No, it's already on YouTube. But that's drugs and fairly descriptive sexual reference.
So I'm not sure how relevant that one is to us. That I think the only
Yeah.
thing that kind of
Oh, sugar.
that I thought that we could gather from that or talk about is the use of drugs with studying. Adderall and that sort of thing. I know.
Have you ever had any students who
on Adderall studying?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't do drugs myself, so I don't. Apart from the obvious signs,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really know.
I don't think I've had many students who are sort of into drug culture, weirdly enough. You kind of, teenagers have that reputation that they're so into it, but I almost feel like kids these days are like really taught that, it's not the right thing to do and stuff. And they're taught about all the risks, and they seem to be, because I've had students who, they'll sort of lecture me when I'll say to them like, oh, you're going to have a beer, to like a 17-year-old student. Oh, I know what you're doing this weekend. You're going to go and drink with your friends, right? And they'll be like, teacher, alcohol damages your blah, blah, you know what I mean? And you get the kind of the moral high ground coming from the student about these issues. And that makes me think if they're going to be like that about alcohol, then surely with drugs. And I think they have a negative perception of those things. They don't necessarily think it's as cool as the American movies kind of make it out to be.
Well, but also there's a whole area of English, a huge area of English, because it is drugs, where there's so many different names for all these drugs. So I know I've never had students be like, oh, how can I say cocaine in in Britain or something like that. But it's an interesting one because there's a whole vernacular and lexi around drugs. So they they must come across it at some point, but yeah, it's never really touched my class.
I had a graffiti guy once.
Oh yeah.
Real serious one. Yeah, he used to put his tag all over the city I lived in. And he was pretty low key about it. I mean, he sort of said he was into photography, but then it got around that he was this big tagger, and we knew what his tag was, or the students found out what his tag was, and they basically, this was an adult class, and they basically said, yeah, you see it everywhere, and you did. It was that guy had plastered everything with it. It was just a tag, you know.
Yeah.
So he wasn't. I wouldn't call him a graffiti artist exactly. He literally just went around tagging everything. So sort of semi-vandalism, but some people might still claim it's art or it's part of the culture or whatever. I guess that might be the closest I've had to I don't know.
I don't and
icy
and
criminal
something else
student.
I don't know of. And you know, if you're a teacher and you're watching this, or you're a student and you're watching this, you know, leave a comment and let us know. But I don't know of any benefit for you know, doing any sort of drug to learn English. And you know, the thought in my mind quickly that just came to me was, or maybe something like weed or, you know, marijuana. You know, kind of would relax you a little bit,
I don't know,
or you know, like having a beer.
For some
a lot of people
might.
get rigid, you know, when you're trying to learn. But also,
yeah, I think alcohol definitely loosens the tongue. It's good for fluency, isn't it? But not necessarily so good for accuracy. People perceive that their language is better and they kind of rattle things off. But then I'm not sure if there's a long-term benefit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually reap the rewards from that. Everyone feels like it helps, but then does it really long term? I'm not entirely sure. But you know, I don't think there's a problem with it. With that, you know, having some beer. Other than that, I would say probably Adderall. I mean, Adderall is something that enhances concentration for any activity.
But then it's just basically you're going to be needing to do rote stuff. Because you can't memorize, you know, like a whole bunch of sentences. You know.
Not necessarily. Well, the thing is, Adderall doesn't turn you into a memory machine. It's just kind of like caffeine, but with an extra level of focus. So, you know, for someone who I think it really helps people reading in university, don't they? By the way, I wouldn't want to not want to put the message out that I'm advocating for Adderall, but it is a drug that is well known in US universities, isn't it? That students abuse in order to study things heavily. It's an amphetamine. It's addictive. It can be prescribed. And you know, it's probably pretty tricky if you get addicted to it. It's probably pretty tricky to break the habit. I would imagine.
Yeah. So I think if your first thought of, oh, how can I learn English or get good at English really fast is to use drugs, then you know.
Wrong way.
Not
gonna work.
No, language doesn't work that way.
Yeah. But yeah, having a beer or two might be all right. Coffee. You know what? Saying that.
Coffee's a drug. Yeah.
Coffee. Yeah. Saying that. I used to advocate that. I used to encourage, especially the quiet ones, and the teenagers as well. The quiet teenagers.
Coffee.
I used to. I used to say to them, because there was a cafe right next to where I was teaching, and I used to say, right at the break time, go and get yourself a coffee. And they'd be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, go and get yourself a coffee.
Well, and it makes a huge difference.
Sometimes they did, and sometimes it did. You're right. It loosens them up. And, is my video just froze?
Your video just froze.
Oh, my
In
word.
The most beautiful image. Got no arms.
It's actually not my video. My video didn't freeze. I'm actually still in that position. I'm very good at ventriloquism.
And this is just a really good demonstration of 20 coffees.
Yeah, that's what my student did basically.
Glorious. We'll make sure to put that one on a t-shirt. When this t-shirt comes out for Rough and Ready Rich, that will be the image on that t-shirt. Rich completely out of his mind in coffee with no arms. We're back.
Yeah, Baby.
So in the time between the first part of the video to this, Rich has gone through extensive rehab. He's now got away from discarding his arms and freezing after 20 coffee. I'm going to put that on the t-shirt. That's the new rough and ready.
This
Rich.
is a teaching podcast, everybody. We talk about teaching. All right.
We try. We try.
All right. So I've got another minute clip. This one, again, I'm not sure we'll learn much about teaching in this one, actually, but I do remember it being quite entertaining. So let's give that a go, I guess. We're all right.
Top of the morning to you, Miss Robinson.
And you too, Mr. Moody. Just so you know, I've been thinking about it, and I don't think we can be friends anymore.
Oh, really? That's too bad.
Not necessarily. I'm not wearing any underwear.
Professor, would you mind terribly if I audit your class this morning? I was thinking you could probably teach me a thing or two about life, love, the pursuit of happiness.
I'm sorry I'm late, Teach. Hot date. Up all night thinking about it. Just keep on replaying it over and over and over in my mind.
Did David Duchovny write this? I feel like he's just like, okay, I want to just write what I fantasize about or something like that. Wasn't he like a sex addict or something? Because
he went to a clinic.
Well, you know, he's hiding it well.
He went to a clinic. That was before this show. He went to a clinic because he cheated on his wife or something. Yeah. Mm.
It's pretty sad, and he's kind of, yeah. Well,
so,
teaching-wise,
sleeping with one of your students and sleeping with two of the other staff members from the institution.
Oh, okay.
Good or bad? Yeah, that's actually what's happening, by the way.
I don't think it's a case of good or bad. I think it's more of a case of professional or unprofessional.
Might even be a case of having a job or not having a job.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not something that I've ever done. Well, I mean, you know, yeah, I have slept with a colleague, but you know, now she's my wife, and that was before we worked together.
Slightly different situation.
Slightly different situation. It's well, they're two separate things. Let's first talk about student and teacher relationship, right? I think that one we've talked about before. That's very tricky, and then the relationship with another teacher, or even a peer to like a supervisor for that.
I'd
teacher.
recommend against it.
Yeah.
Even if it seems like a good idea, it's probably not.
Yeah. I don't think there's any scenarios where.
And to be honest, I mean, well, maybe it could work for someone, but I wouldn't do it the other way again, as in have a partner and then work with them. I think I'm done with all that. I know you said you'd done it right, but and I've done it as well, but I don't think it doesn't work for me. I think better to keep those kind of things separate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in my situation, you know, I met Fanny before we moved to Korea, and you know, I was teaching in Canada, and so we knew we were going to be working together anyway. It's not like I'd met that person, I'd met her while we were teaching. But you know, when we were there, there was a couple that they had moved to career together, and their relationship didn't work out not even halfway through the contract. So they had still had a full, like 6 months, and they were still teaching together. They still had the same apartment together because they provide apartments. Well, some schools do, and it was just, it was not a great situation for them. And just there's so many fish out there. Just
I've seen.
I've never seen it. The downside always makes up for the upside.
I mean, I've seen it go wrong a lot of times. Yeah, there was a fellow I knew in Valencia who was working at the British Council, and his partner, who was like higher up in the British Council. They'd come together. Basically, she got the job, and then so he'd come along as well, and she cheated on him with some Spanish guy. Told him about it, broke up with him, right? And he basically just had to quit because he's like, what's he going to do? Keep working at a place where his ex-girlfriend who cheated on him is like one of the managers? Like, can you imagine? How's that going to work? So he basically just had to quit and went back to the UK. It's like, so it's just that these kind of situations are not good. Keep work and personal relationships separate.
It's kind of pessimistic. I mean, with myself, there was no doubt in my mind, that I would have a problem with doing that, and I don't think many people would, when I moved to Korea with Fanny. But it could have gone differently, in retrospect. So
you never know, and I mean, you probably did it out of necessity or whatever, or it was a good job that you got at the time. But I mean, it's. I think there's areas of whether it's that much of a crossover as well, because I mean, with you and your lady, she tends to teach different groups to you, so she's probably in a different kind of sphere of the teaching. I wouldn't go anywhere near that.
I think again, just having relationships within your job is going to be very difficult. If you can avoid it, I'd highly recommend it. And I also avoid, relationships with your students as well. I mean,
to be honest, well, not just that. I mean, romantic. To be honest, I became wary of even sort of friend-like relationships outside of the classroom to some extent. I think there does need to be a separation, person-to-person relationship, sure, but you can't really go out with 10 of your students and get drunk with them and then go into the classroom the next day and expect things to be the same. I think it's better to maintain some sort of a distinction there, and likewise, maybe it's best that you don't see your students in that environment either. That's my personal perspective, and obviously I'm talking about adult students as well. I think if it gets to a thing where it's like end of the course and for a fact that this person's not going to be your student again, I don't think there's any harm in having like end of course drinks or whatever, right? That's just a bit of a celebration. But for me personally, the whole, I know there were teachers that used to at the end of a certain classes, they'd go drinking with their students, sort of on a weekly basis.
Oh, really?
But totally. I mean, to be honest, I've seen it quite a lot.
I mean, I've gone for coffee with students. I'm not a big drinker myself, really anyway, but sometimes it's useful in that you kind of get a broader picture of the student outside of the classroom. So, if you see them, take out a graphic novel and you're like, oh, they read graphic novels, but they're trying to they're trying to get through a Jane Austen book or something like that. I'm like, well, why don't you just read you've got a graphic novel there. There's plenty of ones in English. It kind of informs you a bit about the person, and might give you some more suggestions.
Okay.
But
so, well, I
there's a
think
line.
on that subject though, I think because the advantage you're reaping there is the kind of natural, casual environment that would happen in a cafe or whatever, rather than the classroom. And I think it's possible to create environments that are more similar to that in the classroom, first of all. But then also, I do like the idea of a scene change. Like we had quite a nice thing in the British Council in Hanoi, that they had like a sort of library area, and you could kind of like walk your class out and take them in the library and sit down, say a few things, I think that's kind of nice. Sometimes the students just like a little scene change, and, maybe you can have I don't know, story time or circle time or something in the library where you're just chatting. But really, I think you can, the more you can make your classroom like that environment, the better anyway.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we had in the different schools that I've worked at in Canada, that each one of them has always had at least once a month they do an outing. Instead of a class, you go to like the local farmers market or tourist attraction, and you go there with your students as a teacher. Like there'll be some sort of activity. Normally it's provided by the establishment, and you just kind of help the students out. But it's a different opportunity for more casual learning of English. I just see that as the same as what you're describing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And the only other thing in that clip was the gift, right? the apple.
Gift. Oh.
Hey, Teach. She says, hey, Teach, chucks an apple at him. And he instantly grabs it and takes a bite out of it, which I quite like, actually. I'll have to remember that the next time a student gives me an apple. Has a student ever given you an apple?
No.
I've
been given a lot of different things. But
yeah, me
an
too.
apple.
Not an apple. Yeah. I've had a box of oranges, a crate, actually, a crate of oranges delivered to the reception. I had to carry it home.
Oh, really?
Apparently it's a Valencia thing, and they were like, we got you some oranges. I'm like, that's cool.
Valencia oranges, they're synonymous, right?
And they went, well, apparently, and then and when I got it, and I was like, really, it was heavy, right? And I think I'd come on my bike, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? So like I had to like carry it home and then walk to work the next day. But my girlfriend at the time was drinking a lot of orange juice after that. It was quite funny.
I've got so many different presents over the years. The only one that really that stands out was I had a religious effigy. It was a Jesus statue. It was huge.
Huge?
It was big. It was like probably the size of my head.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got that one time.
All right. Like an Oscar.
Kind of like a Jesus Oscar.
Was it heavy?
No.
No, that'd be great. It was like this really heavy, like metal.
Yeah. I'd probably. Yeah.
Have it on your fireplace.
Something like that. I don't know. I collect them. I collect all the stuff that my students give me, and keep that as their souls in my box. Wait, I remember one of the first presents you ever got was Agua de Valencia, I think, because I remember it was when we were living together, and it was you put it in the fridge. Is that right? Wine?
No, it was Agua de Valencia. It's like an orange Valencia liqueur, and I think we tried it, and it tasted a bit like vinegar. We never really drank much of it.
I don't remember. I've had so much. I've had so much stuff over the, lots of wine, lots of food.
Oh, really? I've never had wine. Never buy me wine.
Really? They never buy you wine?
No.
Yeah, I got that quite a lot.
Maybe
they're
like,
parents.
whoa, he doesn't need wine. Well, he needs his oranges.
Something about you must just scream orange mad fanatic.
I'm vitamin C deficient.
Yeah.
but I've got plenty of antioxidants, I guess. So
Live forever. Teach forever. That's what they're going for.
So there we go. Hank Moody, pros, cons, and things that will get you fired.
Yeah.
That's what this video should be called.
I think overall, from what I gathered with, his way he's trying to present teachers, there is kind of the same idea that we have, in that there's this kind of historic or idea of what a teacher should be, in that like this kind of stuffy kind of just like authoritarian idea of what a teacher is, and with Hank Moody especially, but a lot of the other clips, including Dead Poet Society, it's more about having a teacher that's just that's passionate, or that's not conventional as a way to engage students. I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from those clips.
No, totally. I think that's the positive, isn't it? It's the down to earth thing. Being a complete stick in the mud is I don't really think it's I don't want to say it's inappropriate for a language teacher, because actually I know people who are really strict, really straight, really I'm the teacher, and they're very good, they seem to get good results and make things happen and so I don't want to say that you have to be the kind of down to earth what's the name, but I think in communicative language teaching it does tend to be a better approach, especially you've got to think about these sort of nervous students. I mean, the important thing, I guess, is like the students have to either have interest or be enjoying themselves or be engaged or whatever, and feel relaxed. And I think if the strictness can work alongside that, then that's fine, and some people make that work somehow. But it's not my way of doing things.
No, it's an interesting idea and topic, and I wonder where this picture of this authoritarian teacher came from, and I don't see it very much represented in real life anymore, or it's kind of like it's got the red mark on it, like it's still there in universities, isn't it? I mean, not in the sense of like authoritarian, but in the sense that they are superior, on a huge pedestal, and they kind of come in and act as if every word that they dribble out of their mouth is somehow coated in gold, which I think is just completely the wrong attitude for someone to have, no matter how much of an expert they might be on a subject, right? Because some students, I mean, it does work on a lot of students. They get dazzled by it, and they have this uber respect for this person and all the rest of it. But do they actually learn things better? Well, I think there's a whole conversation here about, how much students learn from a teacher in the classroom environment. We talk about engagement as being the one of the be-all and well, not the be-all and end-all, but one of the biggest motivating factors for learning English. So if they're not engaged in the classroom, you don't need to be in the classroom to learn English. You can learn it anyway, and you can learn it in if we just push people towards what they think, what they engage with the most, and learning English through that means, then that might be better than just going into a classroom. I always kind of see being a teacher as almost more like being kind of like a guide. We're kind of replaceable with books in many ways, in that all the grammar points they know and vocabulary they can pick it up. It's just we're kind of like a walking, talking curriculum meddled with knowledge that they can kind of practice with. So I think the role of a teacher is going to be interesting as it changes going forward, especially with what's happening now with the pandemic.
When's it gonna be finished?
I don't know.
Tomorrow. I miss the classroom. A
Yeah.
lot. Well, we talked about that with Patrick Jackson. Link in the description down below. Or can we make like a thing float in? Interview.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I miss the classroom as well. I don't think Zoom classes are the same. Maybe the new normal.
I'd love to speak to some of my friends in sort of British councils around the place doing stuff, because I know that some of them are now 100% online. Then they kind of come back for the classroom, but you sort of feel like that's all going to get shut down again with the new lockdown. And but it's kind of, I mean, it's probably it's a really serious subject for them. So I don't know if it's really that appropriate, to start asking them about it, because at the end of the day, like, this is really seriously like people's livelihoods on the line, people with families and stuff, and they're, living abroad and all the rest of it. And, if those academies close, then they're in big trouble. And I think we're at the stage where, because, I mean, no one wants to pay British Council rates and then get online Zoom classes.
No.
There's not what they're paying for.
No, and especially if you're kind of coming to a native country like Canada or England or the United States, you do want that in-class component, because that's how you're going to meet people as well. And,
Yeah, totally.
It's, yeah.
I think that for one-to-one, it works all right. It works all right. I mean, I do a lot of one-to-one Zoom classes at the moment, and actually, because I'm quite adept with tech, I can jump around and do stuff, and I think it works pretty well. But any sort of group class, it's like it's just not the thing, is it? It's people want to be in the same room together, and you can do groups and physical things and stuff. I mean,
yeah. It's until we get some sort of VR thing going on where we can have avatars, even then it's going to be just being in a classroom.
You have to get VR smell-o-vision.
Yeah, because that's an important part of learning.
Yeah, totally. I had a student who said that. I did a class about technology, and I talked about the future, it'll all be, and basically talking about this kind of stuff, but without reference to this was way before the pandemic, about 5 years ago or something. And one of the guys actually, he was sitting next to this girl, and he said, it's not going to be the same though, because I can't smell her. I was like, are you smelling her when you talk? She laughed. She obviously found it funny, but it was interesting. But yeah, I guess there's elements, isn't there? The temperature, and I don't know. You can feel when you're in a room with people, whereas maybe if it's online
this
VR.
idea as well that you go to this place, and then it's kind of it's a literal mind shift with a physical shift. So your mind goes, okay, now I'm in a place where I learn. So some people need that physical change to mentally change and shift. So, anyhow, that was the end of our Californication Hank Moody teaching episode. Neil, if you want to know more from Neil Teacher, check out teamteacherchina.com, our YouTube channel, Team Teacher China, where we've got some teaching stuff for teachers, Team Teacher English, where we've got some videos for like home learning you can give to students for homework, or they can just learn by themselves. It's based on the PowerPoints that we have on teamteacherchina.com. And we also have Team Teacher Baby, which is our experience of being parents through the lens of a teacher, something like that. And then Reach.
You got youtube.com/the Professor Rich, where I don't post videos, and upcoming Minecraft live streams on Twitch once I get round to it, maybe. I don't know. I'm only semi-joking, I was messing around the other week. I was messing around last week on Twitch with a special lady friend of mine, and we were playing some Jackbox party games. And she kind of said, "Hey, why don't you?" Because the thing is, people host it on Twitch and they play Jackbox, and then you log in, right? And then they do a bit of commentary. And she says, "Why don't you run one?" I was like, "Maybe we could do that next time."
Yeah.
So I might be streaming Jackbox soon, boys and girls. It'll be twitch.tv/Professor Rich. Professor Rich plays.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I don't know. Let's see. And I've also got a book coming out in about 5 years.
We'll put a countdown, just starting it from today. Hold you accountable.
Study what gets you hard.
Perfect ending.